Hello. I love that song.
So do I say it like every week, but I love both of our intros.
I have to remind myself not to whistle too much.
I know I could
As
hear you.
I-
That's okay. I was clicking along like dancing a little
So,
bit.
welcome everybody. Welcome Krista. And
Hello.
you say Michelle, so you might want to retype
Like
that.
that, yeah.
We do look like twins, but we're not the same name.
No.
I do know I have heard of people doing that actually,
What?
naming their daughters their same name, like
I mean, men
like
have done it
like
for
men do it.
generations. Yeah. I mean, but then again, women have too. The Queen Elizabeth, the fourth, the fifth, the whoever.
Well, yeah, that's
So I
true.
mean,
That's true. Yeah.
it's more of a royal. Well, I guess not royal. Average people do it. But anyway.
I don't know. Anyway, so hi everyone. I'm Michelle with Moxa Grace Coaching, and we are here today. We being
With me, Krista.
Krista
uh,
Barone.
Wicked Wisdom Consulting. I am a fractional COO and operations consultant, helping small businesses, solopreneurs, coaches, entrepreneurs, a little bit of everybody run their businesses.
Absolutely, and boy, have we had a just amazing, even 24 hours, just going. I don't know about you. I was going until almost 10 o'clock last night. So, wow.
Yeah.
And you know what's so interesting, and it goes with today's topic, which is life transitions, and we've been doing this series, and we're talking about careers today. Um, when you don't enjoy what you're doing, going till 10 o'clock is grueling.
Mhm.
It is just like hair pulling. Oh my gosh, make this day end. And that wasn't the case last night. I
Wow.
just kind of kept going. As a matter of fact, it was supposed to be like a 15-minute call. I jumped in, it was a 60-minute call. Like I was just having fun.
Yeah.
And isn't that what life is supposed to be? Is fun.
I think so.
And there's that saying, when you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. I hear, and I'm sure you do as well, a lot of people complaining about their job, their job. And there is a difference between a
Mhm.
job and a career.
Absolutely.
Um, what was your first job?
My first job was working for family friends of ours who I love dearly. And I started out as a lab technician, then moved up to quality assurance technician, then did a little bit of quality assurance slash lab technician, and then also did some other things that the director of operations, I guess it was at the time, or yeah, needed my help with. So
Hmm.
it was, there was a lot of responsibility. And if anyone knows quality assurance, it is very detail oriented. You really have to be careful. And this was a company that they made products to sell to consumers. And so it wasn't just, if you missed something, it wasn't a big deal. It was stuff that, had to be FDA approved and all of that stuff. So quality assurance was like, it was quality assurance on steroids. So like you really had to focus and know what you were doing and know how everything worked. And there was a lot of moving components to it. It actually was a fun job.
It sounds like if you were kind of dabbling a bit in operations, you think that's what kind of like ignited your passion?
Oh no, I've been doing operations forever. That was just a fun little that happened to tie in, and actually it's funny because looking back I look at it and go, oh, there was a lot of operations tied into that I didn't realize. And actually I think because it was a husband and wife that run the company, and I think that they definitely saw more in me than I even knew that I had in me at the time. Because I was still in college. I'd never had a job before. I didn't really know how any of it worked. And they gave me a lot of responsibility that they knew I was able to handle, which was great for me though, because I think I needed that. It started me off on a very solid footing. What
Yeah.
about you? What was your first job?
Well, nothing quite as cool and amazing as that. Um, I mean, if you really want to think about, okay, my very first job was probably babysitting. Like,
That doesn't
you
count.
make money, and you're
That doesn't
watching the
count.
neighbors' kids, and so you're babysitting. But my first actual job with a boss, hold on to your hats, everybody. I worked at a gas station. And not only did I pump gas,
And wait, hold on.
because
How old were you?
I didn't have a car yet, so I was maybe 14 and a half or 15
At a gas station? Oh, that's
at a gas station. So I would people would drive up, and back in the day, you could actually pull up and people would cut, like there was someone that would come out and pump your gas for you so you didn't have to get out and pump your gas. And so that would be me. But what I actually got to do in between that was I got to work on the radio, and I was the tow truck driver dispatcher. So I got to like get on the CB radio and talk to the tow truck.
awesome.
Tow
What are you
truck.
talking about? Mine is more exciting than yours. That is super cool. I mean, the gas station part, I think, is still very sketchy, and I would never recommend someone who can't even drive, honestly, anyone under the age of like 21 to work at a gas station, because there are
I
some
mean, maybe I was 15. Maybe I was 15.
either way,
Um,
that's way too. I mean, think of all the people that go through a
no,
gas
what was
station.
okay, but that was like the best part back then was that like the kids, because it was a gas station that was in the middle of like this. It wasn't just a cross in the roads. It was like not like a fork in the roads, but it was like three or four different roads kind of combined and intersected. And so it was this busy intersection, and it was in the neighborhood. And so I would meet like the high school kids. And so it was cool
Just goes to
because,
show the difference in our personalities, because that sounds
yeah.
like a disaster for me.
Oh no.
That's like my worst nightmare.
And
But I
then
think
and
we're
then it was a
also
chick, it was a chick pumping gas, and so that was kind of cool too because they just didn't expect it. Like, what's this girl doing here? And yeah, I learned a lot about cars, and I learned how to really not like the smell of like oil and grease. Yeah,
I
like
think
no.
now's a great time for a moment of presence.
For
And
breathing.
we'll get back into the topic, because I feel like we went off on a tangent a little bit.
Well, this is how you go from a job to you got to transition to a career, and you got to start somewhere.
Hmm.
So yeah, so let's take some deep breaths, and let's remember our journeys, the good parts of our journeys, because today is a special day, and it's a big manifestation day. So we're going to 888. We're going to make sure that we think
Lionsgate
positively.
portal.
Lionsgate portal. So, big deep breath in, and imagine all of those tasks and everything you learned, and exhale. And big deep breath in. Where would you be without those first experiences? Exhale out. And one more for good measure. And exhale.
I also want to say hello to whoever is joining us, and definitely put in the comments if you're here. Let us know, and tell us what your first job is. We'd love to hear about
Yes.
that. And if you
Absolutely.
feel like you know someone who is, well, we haven't really gotten to it yet, but if you know anyone that's going through career transitions, that might be a promotion, a demotion, getting fired or laid off, finding a new
Mhm.
job, they're looking for a new job, they're unsure about their job, they've got a new boss, a reorganization, anything like that, share this video out, tag them in it, send it to them after we're live, send them the link.
Yeah.
That way they can see it because we're going to go through a bit today.
Yeah. So, career transitions can be really, really scary. And a career transition can be, whether you lost your job, like you were talking about, or maybe you woke up one morning and said, "What the heck? How did I get here?" Because how many of us started down a journey that we didn't expect, like a gas station, and continued on that journey instead of getting off and going into a career.
Yeah.
Um, Back then, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to make enough money to buy a car.
Yeah.
That was my big goal. And in today's world, and we won't get too much into this, but there are a lot of people that in the last few years, it's been a thing where in starting in middle school, sometimes even in elementary, they're asking the kids, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And then they put them on this track
Mhm.
and they don't get to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
You know, when I was younger, we got to get a taste of a little bit of everything. So we knew what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I remember working at Chicken Plus, which was kind of like a different form of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I was horrible, and and I couldn't remember people's orders. Like that's just not that. So being a waitress or anything like that, that was not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I got to learn very early on because I had different job experiences, job experiences, what I did want to do and what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I think we also need to mention too that, I mean, I sort of included it in the list, but a career transition doesn't have to be a bad thing either. It can be a promotion, it can
yeah.
be a raise, it can be a new exciting job, it can be starting your own business and leaving corporate or a 9 to 5.
Hmm.
There's a lot of positive career transitions that still require you to do some processing along with that, and there's new challenges that come with that, new emotions that come with that, having to juggle new things. Like there's a lot that comes with
Yeah.
either side, and it actually is quite similar.
Hmm.
And on top of that, you also have these new types of jobs coming out. An
Yeah.
influencer, a
Right.
content creator. That wasn't even a thing
What does
when I
that
was a
mean?
kid. Definitely not even remotely thought of when you were a kid. And actually, I thought that's where you were going when you were talking about as early as elementary school and preschool. I mean, there are kids who, at the forefront of the content creation, um, when that first got started, I mean, there were kids in like preschool doing toy reviews that were making millions of
Yeah.
dollars on toy review videos. So, there's a lot of shifts and changes that have happened
Hmm.
in the last even just 5-10 years. And even, I mean, there's grown adults that are leaving their job to become content creators.
Right. And there's a lot of people that are leaving higher end jobs to go to something that is more hands on because they don't want to just sit in an office.
Right.
They want to inspire or create or do something with their hands. And so there's people that are leaving these bigger jobs to go take because they're realizing that it's not all about money,
Yeah.
it's about happiness too.
Hmm.
And so, this goes back and we talked about this a few weeks ago with the book that I talked about, the motive. And, why are you doing what are you doing? Are you doing it just to climb the ladder or are you doing it because you love to lead people? Are
Right.
you not going to college because you want a a technical role,
Hmm.
not technical,
Trade.
what trade? You want to work a trade, which right now is hot, so hot
It's
because
going to be. It's going to continue to be hot.
because they can't find people to do their butchers, for God's sakes. They can't find butchers because so many people have gone off into these all of these high end career, the
Or even just
simplest
content
thing.
creation careers, creative careers, which are all great,
Right.
but these trades are being left behind.
Hmm. Absolutely. I remember my mom, gave me a book, Free to Be You and Me, and then also another book of, uh, it was about girls, and it was girls can be anything they want to be, and it was you could be a pilot, you could be, a doctor, you could be a nurse, you could be the president of the United States. Like that was like I think the last page, and I'm like looking through the book, going, where's mom? I want to be a mom. Like that was my thing. Like
Well, and
that's what I wanted my career to be.
that's a whole other career transition. We didn't even talk about those going on maternity leave, paternity leave.
Hmm. Or coming back
Hmm.
from maternity or paternity leave.
Right.
Or in my situation, when your kids come to you because they're older now and they go, please, for the love of God, go get yourself a
I
hobby.
never said that. Do not put that on me.
It was the best conversation because it started me on my career journey. And so it actually was, it in a weird way, it like gave me permission. Like it was okay.
Mhm.
You guys were good. And I was able to then decide what I wanted to be now that I was grown up and you guys were still growing up. And what was that going to look like? And healthcare was there. Like I had worked in medical fields anyway, in medical offices, dental offices, and so it just kind of made sense. Uh, but and then I had to learn, like, what does that look like to be a professional, um, and to walk into a professional environment, and go to a meeting and sit in a I used to sit in the back round chairs because I didn't want to sit at the table because I had this imposter syndrome. And
Mhm.
so when we go through these career transitions, these are things that can happen is, well, do I really belong here? Or do I know enough? That's
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah, I mean,
And
even just applying for the job, you're looking through the job description going, well, but I don't do that one thing, so maybe I shouldn't apply.
right, right. I don't have the 1 out of 10 things, but I have 9,
Yeah.
but I still don't have all 10, so I shouldn't apply. And, that goes back to the feeling less than, or the confidence, the imposter syndrome. And
Well,
we
and here's
have,
some. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
no, 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 go ahead.
I was going to say, I met with a recruiter a few weeks ago for networking. And I was telling her about that because I had been looking at the job boards just to kind of keep a pulse on things. And I was saying how it just, I'm surprised that in today's day and age, we're still writing these job descriptions with all of these big words and these fancy words and trying to make it sound like, the job is so much more than it is. And she goes, yes, but the reason that companies do that is because they want to find out if you at least know about and know what we're talking about.
Mm,
We don't actually expect you to have all of these things, but we want to know that you know what they are. So that was
yeah.
an interesting perspective shift that probably most people don't consider.
Yeah, I would absolutely guarantee that they don't consider that. They just use it as, they think of it more like it
A
just
checklist.
scares them away. Yeah,
Hmm.
it scares them away, and it's a checklist that they can't check off, and so then they don't even bother.
Yeah.
And tapping into what it is that you really want to do is really important when you're thinking about a career transition,
Hmm.
and it's never too late. And that's the other thing that I really want to touch on today, because there's so many people that are, they've been in the same role, or they've worked their way up, and they're bored, and they
Yeah.
don't like what they do anymore. They're not even the same person they were when they started in the industry, and now they're kind of curious about other industries.
Hmm.
And what do you do? And do you do entry level work? And people forget that you bring your wisdom with you.
Yeah.
It's not like your memory gets erased and you're not you're not the same person. You're walking in with a ton of knowledge. How do you pivot?
Hmm.
And that's the difference. It's
Yeah.
a pivot, and you're bringing all of that knowledge with you, and then you're applying it to the new role.
Yeah.
But you have to be mindful of why you're choosing it. Don't just, oh, well, my friend's daughter has a job opening. And if you want it, those. listen, if you need money and you have to take a position out of desperation, and that's a thing, then at least do it in a field that you're going to be able to grow in and it's something you're interested in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, I mean, at the same time, there's something to be said about, even if, let's say, that could be the thing that you have been looking for. So at the same time,
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily count something out. But I think also what you're getting to is in the situations where, I mean, listen, the economy of the world right now is just ridiculous. There's a lot of people that are having to take positions that they probably wouldn't otherwise do. And that can really affect someone's self esteem. It can affect their mental health and all
Mhm.
these things. But if there can be a mental shift that's made where
Yeah.
you look at it as, I'm doing this in the interim while I'm finding my dream, whatever it is.
Yes. I'm choosing.
Right. And even though that sounds so simple, just making that mental shift takes the pressure
Mhm.
off of you and takes the pain of it, the emotional pain and all that goes with it
Yeah.
away from the situation, which makes it easier to do your job. Same thing as if there's a reorganization or a new boss or
Right.
your role shifts because they're just kind of changing the duties of how everything works. Same situation. You can complain about it every day and hate every day and
Mhm.
dread every day, or make that mental shift and choose, I'm doing this in the interim and I'm going to actively be looking for something that's more suitable for me.
Right.
If that's, the route, if it's not a fit.
Or you can even look at it and say, well, this is an adventure. I'm going to learn something new. And
Mhm.
maybe it'll be something that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Uh, it may feel weird and awkward at the beginning, but maybe there's a reason I'm here.
Yeah.
And, I think it's trusting the process, trusting your intuition.
Mhm.
If it doesn't feel right, and we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday with Shockingly Delightful with all the the things that are out there that isn't always true. If it doesn't feel right,
Mhm.
then it probably isn't.
Yeah.
And so make sure that you're doing your due diligence, you're checking out the company, you're checking out the people involved in the company. LinkedIn is great for that. You can go on and you can see who works in a company, in a business that you're interested in. What are they posting? Get to know them a bit about, from their posts, kind of where their thoughts are and are you aligned?
Right.
And don't, and I always talk to people about, because I talk to people about career transitions all the time. So, number one, most important, take an inventory of what you know, who you are, what certifications you have, what are you bringing to the table?
Hmm.
And a lot of times when I'm talking to people and we do this inventory, they'll write things out and I'll be able to see it like right away, like, oh, well, they should totally do this, but they can't see it yet.
Hmm.
And so I'm careful as you're coaching because I want them to uncover it, not me, to guide them, right?
Yeah.
To lead them to the water. And what could you do that encompasses all of this that you're bringing to the table, and which, what do you see in common?
Hmm.
What are the things that you love to do at those other jobs? Well, I
Hmm.
hated my last job. Yes, but what did you really like? There had to have been
Right.
something that you did that you accomplished that you enjoyed. And so going through that is so helpful because then people go, oh, you know what? I really did like talking to people and helping them through their issues. And it's like, oh, so you're solution focused.
Hmm.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Or, they're the person that kind of pointed out when things didn't seem right. Oh, so maybe you would be good in quality assurance, So it's always good to take a look at the things that you love and the skills and the certifications, the education that you bring to the table. And even just the knowledge that you have that you're like, I don't even know where this came from, but I just know how to do this.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Well, and what's interesting too is another networking person that I talked to yesterday actually She works for a staffing agency. And what I thought was interesting is I don't think it's just me, but when you hear the word staffing agency, the first thing that comes to mind are jobs like, labor intensive roles, custodial roles, admin data entry roles, like very,
Mhm.
you know, dare I say, lower level, kind of bottom of the barrel positions. You go there when it's your last resort. But staffing agencies would actually are potentially a really great place to be able to
Mhm.
try out different roles if you are at a
Yes.
place in your career, regardless of your age, where, let's say you're a creative, but you're not sure which area in the creative space you want to be in. Something like a staffing agency, you get to try out copywriting, you get to try out graphic design, you get to try out all these different things, um,
Mhm.
because they're placing you with different companies where you can experience this. And it doesn't mean that it's low payment or anything like that. I just thought that was really interesting because there's such a
Mhm.
misconception for sure. Because like I never at least heard it called staffing agency. I knew of that kind of concept, but
Right.
to hear it referred to as a staffing agency, I thought was really interesting, and I think it's something that a lot of people discount.
Yeah, because there's people that go out on maternity or paternity
Mhm.
leave and they need to fill that position.
Right.
And whether it's an executive assistant, a secretary, if it's a
But even
uh,
higher than that, they may need a
right,
stand-in CEO. They may need a stand-in
right,
copywriter. They may need a stand-in salesperson, or they just need to add a salesperson to their team. It doesn't even have to be related
absolutely,
to maternity and paternity leave.
yeah, and being open to being placed,
Hmm.
meaning those other people are helping you take that inventory that we just
Right.
talked about, and then you get to test out the role and see if you like it, and then you can actually look for something full time. And it may be in that business that you were, being there, temporary,
Hmm.
a temp
Right.
agency. um and so you never know, but I think it's all about being open.
Yeah. Well, and one of the part of the conversation today that I'd love to hear from you about regarding this is, regardless of if it's a positive or negative career transition, what are some things that people can experience when that happens? Like, what are the, emotional changes, mental changes, physical things they might experience, and what can they do to work through those things?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so many people will say, I need some coaching because I really hate my job and I want to move on. I just want out. I think I'm going to quit. And that's actually, it can be either really really good or really really bad.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, if you're making a decision that I need to walk away because my health is an issue,
Hmm.
and I'm getting worse and I don't see a way out, then you may need to take some either time off or make some drastic changes, or yes, you may need to put your um notice in.
Hmm.
But the key thing to remember is that if you don't understand what about it makes you so miserable, and you're just running out to escape,
Hmm.
you're bringing all of that with you.
Yeah.
All of that baggage is now going with you to the next position.
Hmm.
Wherever you go, it may be the best place in the world, it may be fun, it may be have great reviews everywhere, but if you're bringing your baggage with you and it's a pattern that you have been living with,
Hmm.
you're going to unconsciously, that pattern is going to be recreated in the new position. And
Absolutely.
now you're facing the same issues because you take yourself everywhere you go.
Hmm.
And so if you don't change within first, then that changes the environment around you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you work with, when I work with clients, we work on, I work with them first internally, and all of a sudden they're like, my boss is treating me different.
Hmm.
Oh, tell me more about that. What's happening?
It's so
Well, they ask for my opinion, and
Yeah.
they're engaging in conversations with me now.
Yeah. I'll do you one better. I literally had a boss. I started working with a particular coach at one point, and I literally met with my boss. And one of the first things she said to me was, I don't know what's different with you, but you need to keep doing it because I am very impressed with the way that, you're conducting yourself.
Hmm. Yeah.
So sometimes
Because,
it's even that front and center.
yeah, because you don't have to, you can't change other people.
Absolutely.
You can't change a culture to fit you. You have to decide if it's the right culture for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to decide if you can manage yourself within that culture.
And you also have to
So,
build up your internal fortitude to where external events don't bother you. Because that's
yeah.
really, I mean, a lot of that comes down to that is, your boss comes in and they want to be a dick today. If you're in the right space and you have your strategy, your techniques that work for you and you've worked through your stuff,
Mhm.
that's not even going to bother you. You're going, oh, they're having
It
a bad
doesn't
day.
matter.
Okay, move on. I mean, we've talked
Right.
about this. I've worked with some very intense personalities
Right.
that I happen to really know how to work with. And
Hmm.
I have a knack for dealing with those personalities. Other people would go home and cry after dealing with those people. I go, yeah, okay. I mean, it was a fine meeting, whatever, because I
Right.
I knew how to work with that personality, and that's something that can be built up to
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
a whole
Absolutely.
range of personalities.
And when you learn more about yourself and how to conduct yourself around those other people, whether it's the toxic boss, we hear about it all the time, right?
Oh
Toxic
yeah,
boss. There's been movies, Bad Boss, uh, 9 to 5. Go watch that movie. Uh, it's all about how you respond in the situation. And if you can learn to manage that situation, you may not have to make a career transition
right,
because
right.
maybe it's not the career that's bad or wrong or not a fit. Maybe it's just the way you're reacting. And so when you learn how to respond and manage your emotions,
Mhm.
that's the transition.
I would honestly almost argue that nobody should make career transitions until they have gotten to a place where they can see multiple perspectives about it.
Yeah.
In the sense of like when you're in the heat of the moment and you and your boss are just head to head, you cannot take it anymore. Like I would argue, unless it's of course if it's like, life or death, like obviously there's exceptions. But
Right.
that's not the time to leave because of
Right.
everything that you said, because you're just gonna have to find another job where the same things are gonna come up.
Mhm.
But it also you're not you're not seeing from a level-headed place at that point. If you're super stressed out about your job, you feel like you can't take it anymore, you're going to make a rash decision. You're going to make a decision from that
Mhm.
place versus a place of going, okay, I can see where the behavior is coming from. I can see why these things are happening. Is this something that I want to keep having to deal with?
Right.
And it may be something that you are perfectly capable now of dealing with, but it's
Mhm.
about, do I want to continue to encounter these experiences, and then
Right.
that's when you can make a decision of, you know what, like you said, I like the role, I like what I'm doing, but I can identify that this and this really is not a fit, and it's not something I'm willing to sacrifice my values on. So I'm going to find another position just like this, but that has this and this as part of it, or in a way that
Mhm.
makes me feel comfortable with the role.
Yes. And one of the most interesting things that with coaching,
Hmm.
for the last 5, 6 years is how many people don't realize that they are not the only person being interviewed,
Yeah,
that they should be interviewing the company as
absolutely.
much as the company is interviewing them. And then,
Absolutely.
then they can make a choice. Is this the right culture? Is it the right fit? Is it do I believe in what they're doing?
Hmm.
If it isn't, then don't take the position
Yeah.
because it's not going to be good for either party, right? It's just going to be a bad situation. So when you're making a career transition, Don't just go by what everyone else is telling you. Go within, figure out what you really want to do. And if anyone tells you you can't, in your mind, change that to how can I?
Yeah.
And there's some things, like I'm not going to say I'm going to go and be a horse jockey. I'm a 4'11" and a half, but I think I'm still too tall to do that. So there are things that I can't do, that I can't choose. I can't decide now. I guess I could. I want to go back to school and be a doctor. And that's the
Be an
other
old
thing to
ass doctor,
remember.
but all right. I'm playing.
Thanks a
I'm playing.
lot.
I'm playing. I'm just kidding.
The other thing to remember is don't think that just going back to school is going to
Hold on,
solve
hold on, hold
everything.
on, hold on. You're going too
Yeah.
fast. I don't get to adding any commentary.
Oh, sorry.
So, so I just want to add in a point about, what you were saying about the interviewing process and interviewing
Yes.
them right back. We're in a day and age where a lot of people, like we said, just have jobs. If you're looking for a role and it's something that you enjoy doing, I can tell you, as someone who is in the process of hiring people, has hired people, someone asking me questions back shows me that you are eager and excited about the role. Because I think some
Mm-hmm.
people, we get into this desperation space when we're looking for a role where we just think, well, let me just be quiet, answer their questions, and then that will make them see that I'm subservient, that I can just fall in line,
Right.
like that I'm a good choice. And, I got to make sure that I'm like super professional.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually the people who ask questions back, that ask questions. What's the culture like? That asks scenario. I mean, every interview now includes scenario questions. Well, if this happens, what would you do? You can
Right.
ask those scenario questions back, and that shows. And listen, I'm sure it's not for everybody, and some people maybe wouldn't agree with me. But for someone who very much cares about the people working with me and for me, love what they do, I want to see that from you. I want to see that you're eager and excited to find a team that you enjoy working for. That shows me that you actually do care. And I
Right.
want someone that's going to work for me that actually does care. Because
Yeah.
if you're just quiet in an interview and you're just answering the questions, that really doesn't tell me much about you. You can answer the questions, but I don't really get to see your personality and what
And
you are going to actually bring beyond just the role.
right. And don't you want someone that's going to be able to think for themselves a bit?
Yes. Well, and
you
that's
know.
something, that's interesting that you brought that up, because earlier I forgot what we were talking about. But, one of the big concerns that a lot of people have right now, and listen, I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs because of it, is the, you know, um, already involved in everything, but even more incoming use of AI in companies. And people worrying about, am I still going to have a job in a year with the way that AI is taking things over? And it's interesting because I was in a meeting recently where, and I do not use, this, I don't use AI in terms of any sort of, creation of material, whatever. You can't copyright it. It's not yours. I don't
Right.
believe. But what someone said in this meeting, because they were using Chat GPT for something, and the person said, well, geez, why should we even bother thinking anymore? And that is going to be why, if you are in a job that you're worried about AI,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be your saving grace. Because here's what happens when you have so much set up that you don't have to think, you wither away that muscle. Just like,
Yeah.
what is it, muscular dystrophy? The same thing happens. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these people, unfortunately, that are so dependent on AI, what's going to end up happening is now you've muscular dystrophied that creative muscle. Now you can't come up with content on your own. Now you can't come up with designs on your own because you're not in the flow of it anymore. So
Yeah.
yes, there is going to be a hardship period here where there's going to be a lot of people having a hard time, but there's plenty of people out there who are in the same boat against AI for the very same reasons that I've said, with, copywriting issues,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things that go along with it. So just keep at it and find your people. But that goes along with interviewing. Find the people who believe in the same thing that you do because they're out there. When
Yeah.
I've interviewed for stuff, I literally will tell people, I need to let you know now, I do not use AI. When I'm doing consults with people, I'll ask them, what is your involvement with that? Because I want to know who I'm working with and make sure that we're a fit, and that goes for interviews as well, transitioning your career, all of those things. What's important to you? Make
Hmm.
sure that that company also finds that thing important. Dang,
And
I
it's
wrapped that up with a freaking bow.
yeah, that was awesome. And I think what's so interesting about it too is AI and ChatGPT and all that stuff is out there, but guess what? It can't interview for you.
No.
You can't send ChatGPT to go do the interview for you.
Mm,
So if you don't continue practicing talking to people and using your mind and thinking on your toes and being adaptable and flexible and being able to, you know, handle the software, uh,
mm-hmm,
learn, right? Continued learning,
mm-hmm.
you're going to be left behind because at some point, I mean, what's going to happen when, God forbid, the electricity goes out? We live in Florida. There's hurricanes. What? You're just not going to work for 5 days because you don't have ChatGPT to tell you what to do?
Yeah.
But it cannot interview for you. It cannot build relationships for you.
For the love
And
of God,
so,
don't have it write your cover letter.
no, because it's going to look like everyone else's cover letter. And that's why you also shouldn't have it write your resume for you either. It You shouldn't have it right for you. And I dabbled with it a little bit just because I wanted to have some fun and I wanted to see what it was. And you reminded me why not to, because you could tell the difference between my voice,
Mm-hmm,
what was truly my voice, versus a computer generated voice.
mm-hmm,
And it's interesting because you watch those YouTube videos and I was listening to something and it was an AI voice.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not going to meditate with AI.
Oh, that's
And
weird.
like I was like, no. Like
Totally. By the way, we're totally off the career topic.
yeah, I know. Okay, so getting back into the career transition piece, make the choice from a place of love for yourself,
Mm,
not necessarily a fear or desperation.
yeah.
If you are feeling like you have to get out because health wise your health is declining, then start an exit strategy.
Mm-hmm,
Start creating relationships with where you want to go.
mm-hmm,
Start thinking and taking an inventory about who are you? What do you like to do the most?
yeah.
What's going to get you to do that every day? So that when you wake up, you're excited about getting up and going to work because that's how life should be. It
Yeah,
shouldn't
and
be like, oh, I dread it.
right. And you also don't need to wait until the last minute to take action on it. You don't need to wait until you're so tired and bogged down that you get fired, or you're so tired and bogged down that you have to leave work because of a health situation. You don't have to wait until you and your boss get to a precipice where there's an ultimatum thrown at you, and now you start looking for roles. Now you start trying to work on yourself. All of that is stuff that you can start doing right now.
Right.
Even if you're in the process, you haven't been promoted yet, but you're really, you really want this promotion, and it may or may not happen in the next year. Start doing internal work now. Even if you don't think that there's necessarily an issue to fix, we all have stuff that we can work on. So now is the time to start doing that. Take this as your sign. If you are seeing this right now, take this as your sign to start doing the work on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that also is
Because,
not something AI can do for you.
well, that, amen, sister. Uh, yes. And you'll be surprised that you may not have to leave, or you get offered something even better
Yeah,
that is more aligned with you. But
yeah.
here's the one warning that I want to give everyone because what you said was so important. If you wait and every day you dread getting up and you can't stand your job and you can't stand your
I have a
boss,
great
and
story for this.
you need to make a change, but you don't want to do it. The universe, God, divine, whatever you want to call it, it's going to do it for you.
Yep.
So
And what does she mean by that?
if you say you want a new job and you're not willing to go out and start looking and building that exit strategy, do not be surprised if you get fired or laid off
Hmm.
or something happens where that
Yeah.
job no longer exists.
Well, it can even be the universe is creative. It can look very different from that. I was in a role at one point years ago with one of my first jobs. I dreaded every single morning. I didn't want to get up and go to work. I got hit by a semi truck and
Yeah.
I could have rolled into it was on the highway and I could have rolled into the big lake thing in the middle of the highway. That was accident number 1. A couple weeks later, another semi almost hit me. A couple months later, I almost got hit a third time. And on that third time, I said, you know what? I get the feeling that I need to make a move here because I think the universe is trying to tell me something. Now, I
Yeah.
got very lucky in that the only thing that
Thank
happened was
God.
a dent on my vehicle, not to mention all the times my car broke down on the way going to work, but that's neither here nor there. Those can be signs too. The universe can get creative. So that may
Mhm.
look like car accidents. That may look like health scares. That may look like, God forbid, things that totally take you out of commission where you literally have to leave work. The universe can get very creative. It could look like a nanny quitting, getting kicked out of daycare. It could, I mean, there's so many variations of
Right.
what that could look like. Don't wait until that happens.
And use today, because we're coming to an hour. So use today. Today is a great day to manifest.
Mhm.
So what I would suggest is if you are thinking about a career transition,
Or
start
you're in the midst
right
of one.
or what?
You're in the midst of one.
Or you're in the midst of one, start writing down the things that you are grateful for, the lessons that this job has taught you, because you may have a really bad boss, but guess what? It taught you what kind of boss you don't want.
Mhm.
It taught you what kind of boss to look for. If
Mhm.
it's a bad environment, now you know what kind of environment you don't want to work in. So find the positives in all of those lessons, write them down. Write down the things that you love doing, write down all the skills that you bring, the certifications,
Mhm.
all of the things that you've learned over the years, and start looking at it from different perspectives,
Yeah.
not from being scared, but let's see what kind of puzzle can I create with this?
Yeah.
Because you're going to see some kind of a form come together and you're going to go, oh my God, it was there all along. I should be a dog walker or whatever. I should be a, you know how many people are dog sitting right now and banking
Mhm.
because dogs are like our kids too, and we don't want to leave them home alone with just anybody. And people are going and they're literally living their lives, just going from one house to another in different states, even so they're traveling. How wonderful. And they're getting paid to do this.
Mhm.
So you never know until you start looking. Don't think you're stuck in a corner. If you're stuck
Now,
in a corner, it's because you stuck yourself there.
we are almost close to an hour, so I want to ask you, um, can you help people with this, and how can you help people with this?
Yes, absolutely. And so the way that I help people with this is, a bit of what we've talked about is just getting into the inventory of who you are, going through, your experiences and gathering them all together. And there's just this, I don't know what to call it. It's like an intuitive hit that I can get where I can just like see, oh my gosh, it's right there,
Hmm.
and then I help you see it. So I get to see it probably before they do, but then I guide them so that they can uncover it for themselves.
Hmm.
And then working on, okay, what needs to happen in order for that transition to be successful. And one of the things that I was taught by my mom was dress for the part you want, not the one you have. So if you don't like what you're doing and you're going in and you're, not getting dressed in the morning and you're looking all messy and you're just in a pissy mood, there's going to have to be some changes in your mindset first before you're going to be able to, move forward. So, yes, I absolutely can help you. There's lots of different options with Moksha Grace Coaching to choose from. You can join the Odonata community if you want something that is a little simpler and you want to test it out first. That's fine. Come
Or
on
if you
in.
want a
We'll talk
regular
about it.
monthly, you want regular monthly coaching. It doesn't have to be testing it out.
Absolutely.
You just want the community aspect. You want group
Hmm.
coaching. You want to have access to coaching without having to join a big program of some
And
sort.
you network and you get to hear what other people are managing, learning how to manage, and then it also is inspirational too. So there's that, and then there's one-on-one coaching, and then there's the 3-month programs. There's lots to choose from. Go over to mokshagrace.com, book your call. We'll get you all set up, and we'll help you figure this out. Uh, and let's make sure that the transition is what you need and what you're looking for, or is it just a mindset issue that we can work on together? So, Krista, where can people find you?
People can find me at wickedwisdomconsulting.com. If you have any business operations needs that you have, even if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me. We can have a chat. Totally free chat. I offer free consults. And if you think we'd be good networking partners, that works too. I have a networking call you can book on my website as well. And again, that's wickedwisdomconsulting.com, which you can see right there. And Michelle, where can they find you besides the links that we threw up on the screen?
Well, definitely mokshagrace.com, and then anywhere on social media under Moksha Grace on the screen. And also, I do have a call where you can, if you think we would be good networking and referral partners, that's also a great call to book, is just for that, because referral partners are really important.
Absolutely. Make the world go round.
That's right. So next week we are going to be talking about, I believe, relationship
Yep.
transitions. Woohoo!
What does
Uh,
that even mean? You'll find out next week.
mhm. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Join Krista and I also for Shockingly and Max, Shockingly Delightful on Wednesdays and Moment of Presence on Thursdays. And yeah, if you need some help or you're not even sure whether you need help, just book a call and chat with either one of us, and we'll help you figure it all out.
See you next week, everybody.
Bye.